Hi, I'm Paul Winn. Welcome to Head On, the show that talks about events and activities that are of interest to people in central Vancouver Island. And today we have a really super topic. We're going to be talking about Beban Park and its redevelopment plans that are going to be held public hearing on August the 10th from 4 to 8 at the park. And with me to talk about that today is Councillor Ian Thorpe and the Director of Parks and Recreation, Richard Harding. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. So, about the plan. How about the overall plan?
Sure.
For this
so maybe we can show the first slide, which shows maybe everyone knows what Beban Park is. So the first one is Beban Park. Beban Park's been part of the city in their area since 1955. So it's just over 130 acres. So most people in the community have been to Beban Park at least once for a variety of different things. And a couple of years ago, City Council asked we do an updated Parks Master Plan for the park. And so Council adopted that in 2015, at the end of 2015. And so it's a new plan that kind of looks about a number of things on how to enhance the park over time. What's coming up on August 10th is there's 4 organizations are looking at redeveloping the center area. So if we look at the second photo, if it can come up, the area in question is more the central area where VIEX has been for a number of years and the Equestrian Association has been for years. So it's the second photo, if we can show it.
Can we have the second slide, you guys? No? Okay.
Well, when it comes.
Yeah, we'll get it up.
So it's actually just an open house, actually on site on Wednesday, August 10th, and it's between 4 and 8. And we're co-hosting it with the 4 different organizations. One of the organizations actually has a couple other groups with them. That's the Nanaimo Equestrian Association, the Vancouver Island Exhibition, Island Roots Market Cooperative, and the Indigenous Peoples Place of Culture, which is part of the Métis Association, the Boys and Girls Club, and the Central, what's the third one?
Métis?
It's the Métis, yeah.
Is this the slide that's up?
So this is the general area of looking at redevelopment for this open house. There's the master plan talks about a number of different improvements, but this is the area that's in question. And so the final slide we have is the kind of a proposal all the 4 groups have come together that they'd like to test with the public, and council would like to test with the public of what they think of these developments.
So I think what's important to recognize, Paul, is that first of all, Beban Park, I believe, Richard, is our largest park in the city of Nanaimo. It's a multi-use park, but it's 60 years old, and over the course of the 60 years, the city has changed so much. Demand has changed for what type of activities people want to see and uses in the park. When Beban was first acquired, it was actually outside of the city limits, and now it's a very central park for all the residents of Nanaimo. So I believe, Richard, there was an earlier master plan to update things back in the, was it 2007, 2009?
Yeah, there's one in 1996, probably but prior to this one, and then since 1996, this is the newest updated plan.
Is it going to be a very expensive proposition?
Well, the way that the master plan's set up, it's really dependent on as things come forward. So there's a number of facilities that are there now that continue to be enhanced. This proposal, the ones we're going to be asking for the open house on the 10th, all 4 of these organizations are looking to develop their own facilities. And really they're looking to utilize the park land and the other adjoining amenities to make these happen.
So I think there was a real recognition that it was time to refresh the park, and especially the central area of the park, and see how it could be maybe better used for more citizens. And I'd really like to give credit to Richard and his staff, in particular Kirsty McDonald, who led the master plan program and update. A lot of public consultation was held, a lot of public feedback was obtained, and people suggested ideas that they would like to see incorporated into a revised plan for the park. From that, through the Parks and Recreation Commission, we received some delegations that came and said, hey, we'd like to be part of this. We think our project is suitable for the park redevelopment, and please consider us. And that's where these groups, I think, Richard, have come from. Am I right there?
That's correct. And then they've also made presentations to the council. And so about a month ago, City Council received these delegations and said, okay, let's just go out and test it one more time with the community on these specific projects.
Yeah, I like that concept of the public participation. You know, because that means you're going to get a cross section of ideas, and some of them won't be able to be implemented, at least not initially. You know, you got to make decisions on which ones come first. Yeah. And but the fact that it's the citizens of the area who are not dictating, but at least letting their wishes be known. So you don't put a horse riding ring in their particulars. Nobody rides horses. You know, like that kind of thing is kind of important. But what's going to happen on the August the 10th? You know, what do you anticipate between that 4 and 8 p.m. time frame?
So all 4 organizations are going to be there to answer questions on their specific initiatives, as well as we'll be there to talk about the overall master plan that's in place. But it's really a chance for groups or for the public to come and talk to staff, but in particular to each organization that wants to do some enhancement to the park. Based on their proposals. So all 4 will be there to answer questions.
Will your staff be there?
Yes.
And will you be there?
I certainly look forward to being there, Paul, absolutely, to meet and talk with people.
Because I think, as strange as it seems on some occasions, I think the people like to talk to the elected officials, if you know what I mean. You're at the top of the pinnacle. You guys make the decision. You make whether something will happen or it won't happen, or when it will happen. And I think it's important that the public gets a chance to see the human side, if you like.
I totally agree. I think that is important. And this has been a long process, as Richard said. It's the culmination of 7 years' work to this point. Several years' work, certainly going back to 2013. And there has been public consultation all the way through. We've got to the point where council has examined and heard about the proposals so far. They've said, sounds good, but the next step is to put it in front of the public again and get some more feedback.
Yeah, because this is something that I think I mentioned before we came on the air. You know, I'm a newcomer to Nanaimo. It's only 4 years, but in the short period of time I've lived here, I must admit I've been really impressed about many things that the city has undertaken to improve areas of the city, you know, like different walkways and, just amenities for the public. And I think that's kind of cool that to have that, I mean, as a newcomer, to get that kind of direct feeling is, I think, important. You know, it's really important.
There's something I'd like to add at this point as well, if I may, and that is to recognize that the central area of the park that we're talking about has primarily been the domain of the VIX group that uses it for their annual fair, which is a very important part of Nanaimo's culture and history, and also the Equestrian Association. And they've been very receptive to sort of changing the look of that central part of the park and sharing that land with other groups. They're still going to be an important part of it. Yeah. VIX is very excited about the possibility of a new building going in there to replace some of the old barns, and it could be a multi-purpose type of building that other groups could use as well.
Is that close to where the farmers market is?
That's right. In fact, we're doing the open house partly on the night of the farmers market. Oh, okay. So the open house is going to be just behind the farmers market. So because a lot of what's being proposed is a lot of agricultural improvements, be it we have a really successful community garden there. The already moving in is the greenhouses from another association. They're moving in now, and then 2 or 3 of these are still very agriculturally based type of proposals. The Island Roots Market as a good example.
Because you said how many acres did you say that was?
The overall park is 130 acres. Yeah,
so it's a pretty big chunk of land. But there's a lot of things there already.
Oh yes.
There's a lot of things there already, and when I think of the groups, that's nice that there's some community groups who've come forward to say, look, we want to participate in that. I'm sure it's like if I was to show up and say I have an idea, it's because I have a personal interest and I like to see my particular thing implemented. But if you can get 4 people to come together and talk about sharing space and getting along, I think that's kind of fantastic.
And that's something that I really give Richard credit for, because these 4 groups all appeared in front of the Parks and Recreation Commission. They all pitched their proposals. The commission felt that each proposal had merit and would fit in with the master plan as it stood. But then it was Richard who got the 4 groups together and encouraged them to meet with each other and look at common interests and see how they could share facilities and space in that area. And I think that's been very successful.
Yeah, I think now your role on council, are you kind of connected to the Parks and Recreation people? Is that sort of an area of your interest?
Well, my role to this point has been as chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Now, we're right now undergoing a review of our city commissions and committees, and so that could change in the future. But it's been my pleasure to this point to be chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and I've really enjoyed working with Richard and his staff.
Well, you've had an athletic background too, so.
Well, I'm no athlete, but I've always been interested in.
Into sports.
I've been interested in sports and recreation.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. No, and that's important, because I think that somehow, I don't mean to badmouth accountants, but if an accountant decides to come in and say, I'm going to develop a sports facility, it might not come out the same way it should. That's all I'm thinking about. It's nice if somebody has a personal interest in that area, then they can bring that sort of, I don't know, like what I'm trying to search for here is, I was thinking if I was to walk into a track and field venue, because I spent many years in like my perspective on it would be different than somebody who just thought, oh, that's just a track for running. There would be some other things. So I think that's kind of important that we have people like your 2 selves on top of this stuff and directing it and seeing that it gets done in the right way.
Nanaimo's got a really strong sports history.
Yes.
And right now, I think we're finding, Richard, that more and more people are acknowledging our wonderful park system and trail system that we have here. And more people are using those.
Yeah, you're getting a good bike path too, I noticed. I don't know, I've noticed in the city there's bike paths and trails have started to spring up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then really the reason we have all this is what the public has indicated they want, right? And so even with this open house, to get back here, is that these 4 groups, they're all local organizations, are all residents in Nanaimo and wanting to contribute. So that's the interesting thing about parks and parks development is they do change based on what the community wants. So we have a lot more natural areas than we did 30 years ago because the community wants preservation of natural areas. We have a lot more parks and trailways, and council's been great over the years of securing parkland, investing in trailway systems. And it's been really, because again, it's a lot what the residents want.
Yeah, well, Nanaimo is also growing. I mean, even since I've arrived here, there's been an increase in the population. So that's another thing. You're expanding, and I don't know how much land there is around the city to keep growing, but as you get an increased population, they need recreation facilities.
They do, an increased population and also a changing demographic. And we were sort of talking about this before we went on air. And what people want and will use in a park is maybe different than it was 25 years ago. At one time, I can recall there was car racing in Beban Park.
And logger sports.
And logger sports.
Those have switched over into where the car racing is now one of our busiest, our artificial turf fields, which have thousands and thousands of hours of use that would never have been there until we put those into artificial turf fields. The logger sport areas transferred into a BMX track, which has that, it just, again, it changes, right? And now another area, council's just supported another bike park there, which, again, it's a change in something that the youth, and not just youth, but residents want in that area. So, and this open house, again, on these developments, is things that people have indicated they want to see in the community.
Well, I used the par 3 course this morning.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, down there. I was down. I won't tell you how I did, but I did use it and I enjoyed myself. But I wasn't breaking any records, I can tell you. But you're right. It's a park that like I drove in it, it never seems to end. You know, like it just goes back, 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 and as you say, so that's when I passed. I think they were just setting up the farmers market today. I saw people setting up tables and chairs and that. So, because I've gone there a few times to pick up a few goodies.
And the park is so big that I think sometimes people even forget that it is all part of one park. They'll go to the the artificial turf fields for soccer and drop people off, or they'll go to the arena, or they'll go to the tennis courts, and they forget it's really all part of one huge park. And so we want to revitalize the central part of that park, get more people coming in there, more people using it.
And to improve, again, a lot of it's been blocked, not as accessible. So we hope when we open up this area that people can walk easier to the from the facilities to the off-leash areas or whatever.
Yeah. It's got a lot of parking.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I've never been able to find a parking spot when I've gone there for events and things like that. So I don't know if that's continue to grow.
No, it definitely gets over, you know, at certain nights and days there's not enough parking, but that's like many parks and special events. We can never have enough.
I've never run into that. So as I say, I've gone there for quite a few events since I've been here, and you know, there always seem to be. I might have to walk a bit sometimes, but you know, at least I can park. I don't have to park on the street, or you know.
And those are some of the questions on the open house. So some people are concerned if you put too much in, will it be, you know, will it impact other amenities that are already there? So those are the kind of things we can talk about at open house. You know, where's the parking going to be, and you know, can we still enough room to play the sports we want to do or whatever? So,
are people's comments going to be recorded, or
yes.
Just put down so that?
Yep. Yes, they will be.
You know, because then you get a sense of how the thinking is going. You know, because I know that you've done that with off-leash parks and things like that. You know,
similar process.
Yeah, so I've seen that, and it worked quite well.
So with this is for those who can't make it on site, you can go online and do a similar comments online, and also look at the panels that will be presented at the open house are currently already on our website, and so they can go there and look at that. If they can't get to it, they can add some comments and send them to us. And for those who are at the site, we'll have comment sheets that we will utilize. Yep.
I think it's really important to, you know, that I'm hoping that the viewers that watch this show will be encouraged to show up on the 10th and you know, or go online and at least make their feelings known, or their ideas and their suggestions, that so that it gives you an opportunity to take them into consideration.
Absolutely.
You know,
that's what we want. And this has been part of the ongoing process. As we said, there was an earlier public consultation about garnering ideas of things people would like to see in the park. These 4 groups have come forward with specific proposals. They've worked together to come up with a way to make everything work. Now we want to hear again from the public, what do you think of this specific possibility? And so we've got the Equestrian Association still involved at Beban Park. We've got the VIX, the Vancouver Island Exhibition people, very much involved still. But also now we've got the Island Roots Market, which I think is extremely exciting. And that's something we've been hearing a lot from the community, the importance of local food production and sales. And we've also got the Indigenous Peoples Place of Culture, which is a very exciting concept as well, involving the Mid-Island Métis and the Aboriginal Centre.
Yeah, because that's important.
And the Boys and Girls Club.
Because this is, I mean, this whole area is very steeped in Aboriginal history, and you know, it seems everywhere I go, you know, there's some reference to it or some, and that's nice that I've lived in communities where it's been totally, you know, forgotten, you know, that even though it existed, and that's kind of good, because if you're going to have a community where you want people to feel they belong and are participants, then that's, you got to let people know they're here.
Yeah, I'm really pleased that our civic government, I think, has recognized now that we need to foster that relationship and that partnership with the Nanaimo First Nation and the Aboriginal peoples that are here, and we certainly look forward to working with them.
Yeah, it seems, well, I mean, I haven't seen any controversy in that regard, so that must be working really well, you know, because I've lived in other communities where, you know, there's been a bit of spark every once in a while, but that's kind of nice. I'm just trying to make sure that we really get the message out and cover the important parts of this meeting that's taking place. So if there's anything that you can think of that you want to say about getting people to come out, by all means, feel free to.
Well, two things that people are really interested in learning a little bit more about Beban Park is that the existing approved master plan, which looks at the whole park, is online. Yeah. And then, again, as Councillor Thorpe indicated, for the 10th, we're looking at the central area, as we showed on the, maybe we show the second slide again in a second, looking at that specific area. But even if people have other ideas, they can talk about the other parts of the park at that time also. And then each organization are very active groups, and as you mentioned, talked about even before we started this, is maybe getting them in afterwards. Yeah. It's like each of their projects alone are quite exciting. Yeah, and then collective together, they've done a great job working together to come up with a shared concept.
You know, this is slightly off the subject a bit, but how did it get its name?
So originally, we actually, way back when, so 1955, the city sold Central Sports Ground, which is downtown, to wherever the Port Place Mall is. Okay. And took that money and bought from the Beban estate family all this area. I think I'm sure the Bebans gave some of it too, but there was a sale, and all that land came in 1955.
So this is a family name.
Beban is a family name. Yes.
Okay.
So where Beban House is there, the old house, it was actually their estate house.
Okay.
So it's still there. It's a historical home, and it's maintained on that.
Because I couldn't figure out. How did people come up with this name? Because for me, it wasn't familiar family surname. You know, I mean, like Smith and Jones and whatnot. You know, but
And then for a number of years, then when it was built, for a number of years, it was turned over to the regional district to develop it as a regional park. And that's where the pool and the arena and such got built. And then in the 90s, we came back to the city to manage, as it is now.
Yeah, because it's. I mean, I was impressed with the size of the grounds. You know, when I first, and I got lost too when I first came here. There was an event. Somebody told me, I think it was Bowen Park, and I said, okay, but I thought they meant Beban Park, and so I showed up at an event that I had been invited to give a speech, and I was in the wrong park.
That happens.
We have to make sure we indicate people which part is.
I was in the wrong park, but it was but the facilities were really good. I've gone in. I've used a pool on occasion, and I've not gone into any of the other. Well, there's a social area.
Yes, big social area.
Yeah, and that's been for public meetings. I've been invited to a couple of meetings there. Yeah.
So we have the two arenas and the pool and the social center, and then lots of sports fields, playgrounds, tennis courts.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like it puts a whole nice concept on one-stop shopping, if I can use it. Like I said, you can go there, and if you've got a family of 5 people and they all have different things to do, they can do it at the same site and hook up later.
That's right.
And as Councillor Thorpe indicated, when the City Council of the day bought it, it was way outside city limits. Now it's literally the center of the geographic center of the city of Nanaimo. Yeah. So it's basically right in the middle. So it's a real central park that has a lot of different uses in it.
Because it's in my mind when I first saw it, it reminded me a bit of Stanley Park. In terms of where it was located. Like in the heart of the city in Vancouver, and so, but doesn't have Stanley Park doesn't have the amenities that.
No, there's a tremendous amount of amenities at Beban Park, and I think that's why we want to be very careful about how we use the space that is there and make sure it's used to best advantage. So again, getting this public input on August 10th is very important, and making sure that people are confident that we're on the right track with the project that we're suggesting. Yeah, well, I think makes sense to take this approach, because then you've got the public is going to say, yeah, that's what we wanted and that's what we got, and then. But as you mentioned, Richard, earlier about how there's been evolution. Something that was big, popular at one point dies out, and something new. So to be able to have a facility that can do that is kind of interesting. And the willingness to change, because
I know I've been in some situations where oh no, it's been like that for 100 years and we're not going to move it, and yet nobody, is involved in those kind of activities anymore.
Well, I think Richard and his staff are always very receptive to hearing from the public, and not to say you can keep everybody happy all the time, but they certainly do their best.
Wouldn't that be nice? No. You could keep everybody happy all the time.
Well, again, we're indicating we're so impressed with the 4 organizations because, again, they all came in individually, but they've actually worked really well as a group, give and take some ideas. And so I think when people do come out to listen to each individual proposal, they'll also see how they've all worked together on it.
And I guess these things, all go towards the council to eventually be voted on.
Yes, in fact, they will. This council has identified the next step as being the open house, and then within the next several months, we're hoping within 3 months, that we'll have another staff report come back to council, and with recommendations based on what we've heard, and then council will examine it and decide whether or not they want to approve and move ahead.
Yeah. No, it's democracy at work, isn't it? We got about 1 minute left. So if there's anything I kind of missed or you would like to get out, by all means, this is a good time to do it because 60 seconds is a long time, but it'll pass quickly. Then you'd be surprised.
Yeah. So again, just we'll say again that I'm sure you'll put it on the TV. So it's Wednesday, August 10th, 4 to 8 p.m. We're going to do it right. We're having it outside, right on the site where the proposed redevelopment is going on, so people can actually look at the pictures and they're actually standing on the site that it will be. So we're not miles away from the site or anything like that. And again, all the organizations will be there. And again, get out. I always say get out to our parks because there's lots of things going on all throughout the city. The many different parks and trails we have. Of course, the waterfront's really busy in July with special events. But this one, we'd like to get us out if you can.
Yeah. Look forward to seeing people there.
Yeah, me too. And I encourage all the viewers to, get off their butt, get out there, go and see, participate, and ensure that their voice is heard. And also, thinking of you, the viewers out there, if you've got any suggestions or ideas for shows that you'd like to hear on Head On, give us a call, and we'd be glad to have you and put your item on the air. Thanks for viewing. That was fun.
Pleasure.